Hello and welcome to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike P. Waworski. I am your co-host from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most from the co-host with the most. Here on The Rundown, where we bring you two views, conservative news. Craig, today's a special kind of day, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it is. It is Hump Day.
Oh, Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
That's right, it is Hump Day. This is the day where we attempt to begin the weekend following the noon break in an attempt to, to have some fun. So how is the weekend going thus far?
So far, right on schedule. I have decided that this weekend is going to be a weekend starting today, no matter what all the people I have scheduled appointments with Thursday and Friday think. I don't care. So, sorry. Okay.
Well, in that respect, I'm in the midst of an utter failure of beginning my weekend, as I'm going to have an extra long day today. But it is what it is, man. I will still enjoy myself nonetheless.
Well, very good. And I hope those people that don't enjoy you get over it. So,
yeah, if they don't enjoy it, they can get over it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Excellent. Hey, folks, do us a favor. However you're watching us, however you're listening, please make it a point right now at this moment. Share. Whether you're watching us on Facebook or you're watching us on YouTube, whether you're watching us at 2A News or you're watching us at Arms Room Radio, whether you're watching us on OpsLens or Spotify or listening to us on however you listen to your podcast, encourage your friends to do the same. I've especially noticed, Mike, that our podcast listeners have been doing a phenomenal job of sharing, as our listenership it's going up, sir, significantly.
Is it?
Up there? It's going up. People may not like to look at us, but they definitely like to listen to us. So I guess we have faces made for radio or podcast at least.
Doing the show like this.
Excellent. But we appreciate you. We appreciate you folks
on,
sharing. It, interesting part about it is I was looking at our demographic. First of all, we're like 85% of our listeners are dudes. I don't know what's up with that.
That's you.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea why. Well, probably because we're talking guns, and that tends to be more of a male thing. But anyway, hey, folks, share us with the ladies. Ladies, if you're listening, share the show. I'm sure that your female friends will enjoy the pontification and the pithy comments that we have on issues.
Greg, I'm just here to share information. Whoever follows. I didn't realize you were that desperate for female viewers, but okay.
No, hey, I just want more viewers.
There you go. I got you. So, okay, guys, you can slow down. Let's get the women to jump in there so we can bump all the numbers up.
There you go. The guys don't even need to slow down. Just share us. I'm just saying, if you're sharing us with your friends, share us with your female friends too. That's all. Clearly, they're sharing it with the dudes. The dudes are sharing with the dudes. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that's a California thing. Yeah, so they just do it.
Yeah, no. Okay. Right. Whatever. Okay, moving right along. Now that we're into the bashing California stage of the program, let's get into today's news.
I'm not allowed to do it. You can do it, but I can't do it.
I'm sorry, you're going to need to say that one again.
I said, you can bash California, but I can't. Keep it up. I'll get you some more alligators climbing fences.
Ah, I see. Yeah, that was I have to admit, that was a very interesting episode talking about alligators climbing fences.
I showed that to a lot of people yesterday after showing that to you, a couple of people. And everybody from Florida was like, yeah, we know that. And people from out of state were like, what do you mean they climb fences? And so like I guess it's just really like local Florida knowledge. Like we just know, we just know.
Yeah, that was like I said. It's funny. I showed that one to my wife, and she was like, "What?" She about lost it. She was like, "What the heck is that?"
Yeah. Yeah, that means you can't even like fly in anymore because you see the alligators in the ponds at the airports. So, if they're climbing TSA fences, I mean, what good is it? It's just
Scary.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Moving right along. So, if you've been watching any of Joe Biden's press conferences, first of all, you realize that he is flat out senile. But you also have come to notice, you've also probably recognized that he is claiming that, he has in fact cut the deficit more than most Republicans have in fact cut the deficit. And now this is how bad his perspective on this particular thing has gotten, is that even the folks over at CNN have taken to correcting him. To take, for example, here, this is an example of a fact check that they did. Now, there were 3 items, Mike, that they recognized that he was just flat out wrong on. All right. The first was that he tried to say that, for the first was that he said, well, I've cut the deficit the most. I've cut the deficit more than any other Republican. And true, the problem is first and foremost, the deficit that he was cutting, or that he cut, was from his own spending. Because he doesn't realize, or at least he didn't acknowledge, that the spending that took place was during, a big part of the spending took place during the beginning of his term in office.
Yeah.
Because the fiscal year, they were saying, goes from September to September. So a lot of that deficit that he cut was, by the way, huge spending that took place during the first 8 months of his administration.
Right.
The other thing that he failed to acknowledge was that a lot of the spending reduction was expired COVID spending. So in other words, there was money that was spent on COVID before the bill ended, so that COVID spending wasn't going out anymore. And the final thing that they failed to acknowledge was, while the deficit went down, he still wound up spending more money than had happened previously. The only difference was because blue states that had shut down started opening back up again, that they were actually generating more money and more tax revenue.
Do you know, I'm sure you know, baseball legend Keith Hernandez, baseball player Keith Hernandez.
Yes.
He has 11 gold gloves, right?
Right.
I would to routinely say to people, it's like, oh yeah, no, Keith Hernandez, yeah, between me and him, we got 11 gold gloves, which is technically true, right? Because Keith has 11 and I have none.
Right.
It's kind of like the way Joe Biden talks about the deficit. Oh, we just cut deficit spending to an all-time low. Yeah, you also raised it to an all-time high. You forget the other part of the fact here. There's some other key information you're leaving out. So I feel much confident now saying that between Keith Hernandez and I, we have 11 gold gloves. So,
well, there you go, and that's statistical. Well, I've said this before. There's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics. But the worst part is for him to get up there and make this claim and have it be so obvious that he is incorrect that even when CNN fact checks a Democrat president, that it's not true.
When he gets up there, it's funny because you can watch him get up and go to speak, right? Now, there's the stuff the White House releases. And the stuff the White House releases is usually pretty accurate from their point of view. We get that they're gonna bend and twist things. But when Biden gets up there and says something, and if it's at a full-blown press conference, it's like they're telling racist jokes, because every time he says something, the whole audience does this. What?
Right.
What did he say? And then they have to decide quickly, are we going to attend him for that, or are we just going to let that lie because we support him?
Well, and that's the interesting part about, for
watch.
example, when Jen Psaki would get up there and defend some of his positions, it was like or say some of the things that she is told to say. Everyone's like, huh? What? Well, now that you've got a new press secretary, it's going to be interesting if anyone challenges her on some of the things that she says, she's going to accuse them, or they're going to be accused of being a racist or of being a homophobe, or just, it will not surprise me if they say, well, they're attacking her because she's black, or she's because she's LGBTQ plus.
I don't know if they did that. We never saw anybody say bad about Jen Psaki other than her technique for responding, the whole circling back thing. But will people do it? Of course they will, Craig. I don't think it's going to be the focus. I think everybody else is going to focus on, oh look, they're lying so fast up there at the lighthouse they can't even figure out what to say about them.
That does generally tend to be the way things are going over there.
Yep.
Okay, moving right along to our next story. Now, this is an interesting one because I know that you have a very good relationship with Colonel West. It appears that his next venture will be challenging Wayne LaPierre to be for the top spot over there at the NRA. We all know the NRA has been kind of dealing with a lot of stuff. We'll just say that. But it's going to be interesting because now Alan West is a person who's known of having the utmost integrity and has been an advocate and a leader within the NRA for a number of years now. What do you think about his running for the top spot?
Well, I have not had the conversation with him yet, and we don't talk every day. I mean, we have conversations. I have to get some clarification on what's going on with the job there in Texas. Does this mean he's officially pulling out of the race for governor there? What's going on in Texas?
Well, now didn't they have their primary already?
I have not followed the Texas primaries.
I believe I believe the primary is already over, and Abbott won the primary.
Okay. All right. So that did occur. Okay.
Yeah.
That was
he's officially pulled out of the race.
Okay. All right. So then it's full speed ahead, right? He's already a board member. Should be in his last term as a board member, coming up here this year. I believe he's due for a reappointment. He's one of those board members. Mm-hmm. We saw this occur 3 years ago, if I recall. Remember Pete Brownell, who had been the previous president. Oliver North had become the president of the board members, and then you still have Wayne LaPierre. There had been the plans to take down LaPierre with North and his allied board members, and then LaPierre pulled some mob shenanigan tactics, pulled the drawer out, and went, well, hey, board members that are supporting him, remember when your wife painted my office for $40,000? Remember when I bought from your cousin a pair of shoes for $50,000? And they all cowered down. So, like you say, Alan West is of such high integrity that none of that kind of blackmail eligible items exist for him. So we'll see. It's a great fit. We'll see how it works out. Of course, we know he'll have the support of most every veteran out there. So that's a huge portion of the NRA.
Well, I just think it's time to bring some integrity back. And, I haven't looked at all of the information or the data enough to say that I believe that Wayne LaPierre was stealing money. But he was definitely benefiting himself and others. I think there's no real doubt about that. But I think it's time to have someone who's known for some integrity to be there at the head. And I think that I can't think of anyone who is of the national stature and has that level of integrity that it would be more appropriate than Alan West.
Yeah, the only one I think we talked about recently was Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah,
and if he wanted to make that jump over, but between the two of them, that could be a heck of a ride. So
yeah, no, wouldn't doubt it.
There's more than one position available.
Yes, most definitely. So just know, Colonel West, we here at the Rundown are rooting for you. You got our endorsement for what it's worth.
That's my root case.
All righty then. All right. This is an interesting one. So California is banning H&K pistols, all of them, right? They are literally banning all H&K pistols. And the point behind that, quite frankly, is this. So in California, we have what's called the Not Unsafe Handgun roster, right? This is a roster that In other words, this has to do with the micro stamping. So in California, new model pistols require micro stamping. If it's an old model, if it's already grandfathered in. Well, what happens is every year you have to pay the manufacturer has to pay $200 and send in a sample of the firearm for it to be tested in order for the firearm to stay on the roster. So we don't know so multiple things could have happened that caused it to be removed from this roster. Maybe they decided they're not going to pay the $200. By the way, that's per model that is on the list. Maybe they decided that they're not going to pay that additional amount. Maybe they decided maybe they changed a part manufacturer. So, for example, if you change the springs, if you change the color, if you change anything, any of your suppliers or anything, it is then deemed to be a new model firearm, and therefore must have micro stamping. It could have been any of those things, but suffice it to say that in California, if you desire to purchase an H&K pistol, you will you're going to be up short because you're going to have to buy it from a private seller as opposed to being able to purchase it from an FFL.
Craig, I'm curious. What do they do with these guns? What do they do with the guns when they send them to the DOJ and say, "Here's our model of our gun, and here's $200. We need you to approve it." What do they do with the guns?
I don't know. Probably destroy them. I would imagine if they test them and they fail the test, I'm imagining that they would hold on to them so that at least the manufacturer can verify. Wait a minute, did they fail the test or did they not fail the test? By the way, they never fail the testing. It's a drop test.
Yeah.
I cannot think of any firearm that has failed the test.
The SIG. Yeah, the SIG. Yeah.
Even the high
The
point.
SIG full auto drop test on the 320. No, don't worry. It was a special feature. They fixed that problem, folks. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
This is so now they're just not on there, Craig. Did they not submit the paperwork in time? Did they not route it to the right person? But all of a sudden, H&Ks are gone off your list.
Well, here's the other thing: is maybe H&K may be deciding that they're not interested in manufacturing those models anymore. Keep in mind, these are models that have basically were approved pre 2013 or 11 or something like that when this roster actually started. So these are 10-year-old models, right? And so they maybe just decided, it's just not worth it for us to manufacture those anymore because we're not selling enough of them. And so maybe they just decided, look, I guess we're just not going to sell our handguns in California anymore.
That's interesting. I'm trying to look up a little further here while we're talking about it, but I mean, I could see that. I could see that's a boycott. That's kind of the slap in the face that we're not going to do it. And so I hope that's the case with California, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, you got to kind of compare it to, it's like this. So imagine people said, well, you know what? You can only buy tube TVs, right? TVs with tubes, right?
Yep.
In California. Because, I don't know, environment, whatever you want to call it, maybe because of the environment or something like that. That's the only reason that you can purchase those, right? Well, eventually, people are going to stop in California, are going to stop buying TVs. They're just going to realize, look, I can't watch what I want to watch on a tube TV. And eventually manufacturers, by the way, they have to completely, as they move on to the flat screens and the QLED and all of that, eventually they're selling enough of those TVs that it's really not worth it to keep this one part of their factory tooled just to produce this out-of-date product that nobody else in the country wants, right? But nobody else in the world wants because they can get the new model, the flat screen. After a certain point, when Californians are just not buying tube TVs, they just stop buying those TVs, then or not, they finally just say, you know what, it's not worth it to us anymore. Maybe we'll just stop. And that's what often happens. Now, before, the other issue was, and this is what some manufacturers were doing, before microstamping became an issue with the roster, you would have manufacturers decide, I'm not going to keep paying the stamp, and let their firearm fall off so that Californians would be forced to buy the new model. So if you went to the store, you couldn't buy the old model anymore. You have to now buy the new model, which, by the way, costs more.
New shiny. That's right.
Now, mind you, you still can't
may not
purchase it
use
from
all
a
your
private
accessories,
party.
yeah.
You still can't do a private party transfer to get these firearms. But, and oh no, by the way, law enforcement are exempted, and current and former law enforcement are exempted from this issue. So they can still go and buy the new model of firearm. That's why you see, when you see a lot of these stories about law enforcement officers in California being busted for trafficking firearms, what they've done is they bought a firearm that was not on the roster because they were LEOs, and then they turn around and they sold it to somebody who couldn't have purchased it otherwise, and they sold it for a markup. And that's what's happened. That's what's happening when you hear about that happening in the state of California. They're selling firearms to people that are safe and legal every place else in the country and safe for law enforcement, but they don't want the average person to have them.
Very interesting. That's once again California trying to take them out of the race of believing in rights. So we're just going to over legislate, take everything from you as usual.
Yes, it is a pain in the patootie.
Yep.
But it's life in California.
All
All right. Now, we missed this story over a week ago, but I thought it was a relevant story and something that we needed to talk about. Because it has to do with Hunter Biden's laptop. I don't know if you heard this, Mike, but the repairman, the guy who actually blew the whistle on Hunter Biden and his laptop, well, dude eventually wound up losing his business. He wound up being harassed by the media, harassed by support or Democrats, or harassed by liberals. And he finally decided that he is going to now sue. He's going to now sue Adam Schiff, CNN, and Politico, as well as the Daily Beast, all of which who claimed that what he was doing, that he was a Russian agent and that he was engaged in Russian disinformation. Basically wound up putting him out of business. And so now he is suing all of them. And I have to say, I am sincerely hoping and praying that he wins a boatload of money.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I hope he gets the big cha-ching at the end of this. Unfortunately, we know what will happen is that they have the monies, they have the deep pockets. They will stall any part of this lawsuit that has to go forward, and they won't even settle out of court. They're so big that this guy is not even the bothersome guy that can make waves for them. This is the ant to walk on to them that means nothing. They have no problems whatsoever with continuing to crush this guy who all he did was exercise his First Amendment rights, right?
Well, it depends, because if you look at it, I mean, there have been a number of instances where CNN, where a number of folks have had to actually settle. They've settled some of these cases just because it was cheaper. But more and more, you're seeing people who are going after and suing these agencies that, quite frankly, these in particular the news agencies that are flat out reporting lies, and they know that they are lies, and they're not even bothering to fact check these lies. And I think that when you do it, whether it's the Kenosha shooter, Rittenhouse, whether him being called a racist, right? Or it was the kid from the high school who was accused of harassing Native Americans at the Capitol, the Capitol Mall. Whatever it is, you're starting to see more and more how these false narratives are being put out there by the media and then turning out to be in fact false narratives. And it would have taken very, very little energy or effort for them to fact check these things, and they chose not to. I think they ought to be held accountable.
I agree. I think they should be held accountable. As well. They are the purveyors of lies, right? That's what the media does. They continue to put out false information. We've seen the examples you've just given. Now the guy with the Hunter Biden laptop, all he did, Greg, was say, "Yes, I fix laptops." It's not like he's some whack job right wing conspiracy guy out there making stuff up. This is a guy who lost his legitimate regular business because of the allegedly legitimate news organizations that have tried to destroy him.
Yes, exactly. And anyway, and this is why when we talk about, for example, Section 230, when we talk about social media and internet companies, see, right now, they're exempt from lawsuits like this. Facebook, Google, Twitter are exempt from these sorts of lawsuits because they say, well, we can't be held responsible for what people say. We're not arbiters of the truth. But then they've taken upon themselves to edit content, to decide what is truth and what is not truth. If they're going to do that, then they ought to be held accountable, and they should not be able to exempt themselves from stuff like this. They ought to be able to get sued like everybody else.
Yeah. Nope, absolutely agreed. You want to take part in the process, then the process should be able to correct your deficiencies when the time needs.
Yes, sirree, Bob. Yes, sirree, Bob. Okay, it's about that time for us to move on to our parting shots. And I got to tell you, Mike, we got some doozies today. We really do, do. We're going to start with the first one is the one you sent me this morning because it is so hilarious and it actually has to do with social media. We'll share that one first. You want to go ahead and read this one for the folks?
Sure. It's a cover story from Rolling Stone. It says, employees at Twitter already having issues with the new owner, Elon Musk, stated saying, he just walks around all day quoting Borat. One customer said, I have requested time off for my wedding, and he just keeps claiming, my wife, my wife.
I will tell you, Borat is a particular type of humor, and not everyone can appreciate it. I can generally only appreciate it in the movies for about the first 20 minutes to half an hour, and then it's just the same thing over and over and over again. But it's still funny.
Oh yeah. It's like foreign jackass is all it is. It's just,
pretty much. There you go.
Yeah.
That is pretty much what it is. Much what it is. All right. Okay. This next one is an interesting one. Not quite as humorous, but I also think appropriate given our times. You know that a number of protesters have taken to not just going to the Supreme Court, but going to Catholic churches and going to the homes of members of the Supreme Court in order to attempt to intimidate them to change their positions on Roe v. Wade. Someone quoted this, and it's a picture of the Supreme Court, and it also has U.S. Code 1507, and it states, "Whoever, with the intent of influencing any judge in the discharge of his duty, pickets or parades in or near a building or residence occupied or used by such a judge shall be fined under this title or imprisonment." And then at the bottom it says, "Arrest the terrorists, release the decision." I got to tell you, Mike, this is the law, and I don't understand why it's not enforced. Except I do believe the Supreme Court actually had ruled that this was that you couldn't do this. That this was unconstitutional.
I'm looking up U.S. Code 2507. It's that's clearly a redacted portion of that. It's
1507. It's 1507.
What did I say?
You said 2507.
That's probably why I can't find it. Let's see here. Let's go back here. Let's see. Take out
one of the things and I've noticed this in California, sometimes what happens is if a section of the Constitution is deemed unconstitutional, it doesn't mean that it's removed. It just means that it doesn't apply. Because, like, for example,
right. Yeah.
In California, English is the official language of the state of California. And yet, we don't treat it like
enforce it. Yeah. Try and enforce it.
So yeah, it may be there, but if it's been ruled unconstitutional, then they're not gonna. Then they're just basically just not going to enforce it. I don't know why they then don't at least put a little asterisk next to it. This has been deemed unconstitutional, but anyway.
Yeah, I don't know, but we talked about this earlier in the week when we just discussed them outside of Judge Thomas's home or Justice Thomas's home, and I think I made the comment that this was when this was done with mayors, the mayors of Atlanta, mayors of Minneapolis, that really didn't have a problem with it. Again, as long as they're not out there breaking any other laws, right?
Right.
That's the, if there's peaceful protest, there's peaceful protest. Now, if this law is in place that we just posted up there, 25 U.S. Code 1507, and it says it's illegal, well, obviously that would go back to having a different answer than we had the other day.
Yeah.
This is one of those laws where I think you're right, Craig. I think it's been overturned by a decision, so that's probably why it's not in the forefront of our legal minds. But even so, it's great to see something like that was brought to record, because remember, for the most part, for judges, that's that lifetime appointment. They're not somebody you elect in and out of office, and we're supposed to revere them to almost a higher level than Congress and maybe even the presidency.
Yeah, they're humans, so therefore they are potentially fallible. I agree with you. It's supposed to be a co-equal branch of government, but what's frustrating is once again, I don't think I for one am not a fan of doing this. I'm not saying I'm also saying that I don't believe you should be arrested unless you are in fact breaking the law. I know that, like, for example, in Sacramento, when they went to the mayor's house, they were told, even if they damaged property, they weren't going to do anything, because the ruling from the city council was, unless if it's property damage, don't do anything unless an individual, unless a person was in danger. Well, then you can do something. So they treated the mayor like they treat everybody else. I'll give them credit for that.
That's true. Very true. Very true.
All right, this last one was just fun, and I totally agreed with it. Okay, for those of you who are just listening, it's a what appears to be a chimpanzee smoking a cigarette. But he says, the label on my body wash said, use liberally. So I stood in the shower screaming about Russians and calling everyone a racist.
You know what this leads me to believe right away, Craig?
What?
That we are in the evolutionary process, because now we got monkeys sitting in the toilet reading the back of shampoo bottles. Because listen, back in the day, that's all you could read was, well, I guess I'll read the shampoo bottle again. So they're probably about 40, 50 years behind us, I'm thinking, right now in evolutionary cycle. So, well,
see, but that's for someone who didn't plan ahead. Even before you could read your cell phone, and I would have the newspaper or something. I got a book. I got some quality reading done during that time.
Yeah. It's definitely some quality reading, but you had to be a planner. That's why you're a little further along, Craig, than the chimpanzee.
There you go. There you go.
You also don't smoke in the bathroom anymore. So there's nothing.
No, I do not. My dad did, but I never smoked.
Yeah, well, your dad did
in
that
or out
benefit.
of the bathroom.
Yeah, he smokes in the bathroom for your benefit, just so you know. And as a dad, you should recognize that. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. All right, it's about that time, Mike. How about a quick shout out to our sponsors?
Say hello to our good friends, Gorilla Machining, who I did visit yesterday, as I promised you. Grid Defense, or this morning I visited them. And then, of course, our good friends over at the California Republican Assembly.
Yes, folks, they have all said, we've spoken with all of them. They've all said hello. They've said, please visit them. Follow their links in the description to this video. And if you like what you see there, kick them down some cash and get some quality membership / products. Get them while the getting is good. And by the way, remember to tell them that the folks over at the Rundown sent you. With that, we're going to call it a day. So we're going to be out of here, and we will see you tomorrow on Thirsty Thursday. Remember, like, share, subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same.